When the Hotel del Coronado was built in the 1880s, crowds of people used to picnic at the site just to watch this masterpiece of Victorian architecture go up. More than a century later, crowds still come to enjoy this elegant destination hotel, and with good reason. It's conveniently located on the small island of Coronado, just off the California coast, a short drive from the great restaurants of San Diego.
There's something about the Del that is so unique. I think its history is certainly a significant magnet, and the architecture, as you know, you've seen it yourself, is absolutely spectacular. And the location, being on 26 beachfront acres, is truly almost impossible to replicate anywhere else.
And for the last 100 years, the Coronado has attracted big names from all over the world, including world leaders, crowned heads of Europe, as well as American royalty. The Hotel del Coronado has even doubled as a movie set, like in the Hollywood classic Some Like It Hot, starring Marilyn Monroe. But this hotel's most famous guest might be a permanent resident. She's a Victorian beauty named Kate Morgan.
I definitely believe that Kate haunts the hotel.
But will you believe it too? The eerie tale begins as mysteriously as it ends. Kate Morgan checked into the Hotel del Coronado on November 24th, 1892. Suspiciously, she signed in under what would prove to be a false name, Lottie Bernard. She was alone, had no luggage, and appeared to be ill.
One point she asked for a glass of whiskey to be sent to her room. She was very ill. Everyone at the hotel recognized that, and she was in a lot of pain.
Kate Morgan spent 5 days at the Hotel del Coronado. On the 6th day, she was found dead.
Kate's body was actually found here the morning after she killed herself by a hotel employee.
After discovering her body, he alerted everyone at the hotel. Then they began the painstaking process of trying to figure out who she was and where she came from.
When they could not really determine her exact identity, they did a sketch of her face, and they sent that sketch to newspapers and police agencies throughout the country.
The newspapers around the country began calling her the beautiful stranger because of the mystery surrounding her identity. Finally, the police received an anonymous letter identifying her as Kate Morgan from Iowa. The news shocked the country. Suddenly, Americans became entranced by this mysterious woman who traveled alone, without luggage, and with an alias.
You can imagine what a traumatic and kind of scandalous event this was back in 1892.
Gradually, they pieced together the background of this tragic beauty.
She and her husband used to ride the trains around the country and gamble. And she supposedly posed as her husband's sister so she could distract the gamblers, and then he would make money off of his competitors.
But on the train to San Diego, Kate and her husband had a fight, and he left her. At the Hotel del Coronado, she waited, hoping he would join her. Finally, alone and desperate, she gave up. Though Kate Morgan has been dead more than a century, she apparently has never left the Hotel del Coronado.
She was young, she was brokenhearted, she was on her own, and she killed herself. And I like to say, you know, even a Hollywood screenwriter couldn't come up with a better potential ghost than that.
Over the years, countless visitors to the Coronado have reported seeing, hearing, or feeling Kate's presence. Karen Lakis is one of them.
As I'm putting the key in the door, I'm glancing over my right shoulder, and I glance over and see this beautiful, beautiful, stunning woman who's also putting the key in her door. and we nod as if to say goodnight. We don't speak. And I take one step into my room and realize that this is not a woman of our era. She was a woman dressed in a beautiful Victorian gown. Her hair was done up. She was absolutely magnificent. And I realized that I had seen a ghost.
And many other hotel guests have made the same claim. Kate seems to appear most often in the room where she stayed during her last days.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the Dell.
But Coronado's doorman, Wayne Wright, was showing curious tourists through the room when he noticed something very unusual.
I'm standing about probably 4 feet from the actual bed, and I looked down and I noticed that there was an imprint of a person actually lying, like someone was lying in the bed. There was the shape of the body, and then in the pillow there was an indent. I just reached down and grabbed it and just tried to pull, and it wouldn't straighten out at all. At that point I was like, okay, obviously not the professional to deal with this.
Later that evening, a couple staying in the room said they had their blankets jerked away from them in the middle of the night.
The wife remembers having the covers taken away from her, but she thought her husband was hogging them. And only the next morning did he say to her, "Did you see what happened?" And what he saw was the outline of a woman ripping the sheets and blankets and bedspread off the bed.
You might think all this activity would make the room unpopular, but think again.
People are attracted to this. There's a curiosity about the unknown. If you say, gee, I'd really like to know more about that. And so there are people who really get excited about this kind of stuff, and they'll call here and specifically, emphatically ask for this room. They want to stay in this room.
Just forget staying in room 3327 on Halloween. That's Kate Morgan's room, and it's usually booked. But don't worry, you're just as likely to see Kate any other night of the year. Of course, there are no guarantees, but if you keep your eyes open and your nerves steady, who knows? You just might meet the beautiful ghost of the Hotel del Coronado.